Hello guys, good morning. Very happy to report that this year we have a very good production of blackberries. Ever since we planted the blackberry canes on our farm, I think it was in the year 2022, we have had the best production of blackberries this year. Last year we produced about 40 kilos of blackberries. This year we have harvested already about 70 kgs or so, and as you can see we have so much more still to harvest. Every day we come to the farm and we harvest almost about 3 to 4 kgs of blackberries. Blackberries, they need to be harvested every day. These ones that look red right now, they're going to turn black, glistening black. That's when we harvest the blackberries, and we still have about 70 to 80 kgs, perhaps more, of blackberries to harvest. So a very good bumper harvest. But today what I have come to do is, I have come to tie all these long canes onto the trellis system that we have built for our blackberries. So this is the trellis system that we have set up over here on a farm for our blackberries. The trellis system for the blackberries needn't be too complicated. We fashioned this trellis system on our farms ourselves from whatever material that we had. We buried this iron post into the ground almost about 2 feet to make it stable, and on top of that, from the ground up, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4 of these pipes attached at regular intervals, of about 15 to 14 inches, and on top of these pipes we have attached the ropes, and these ropes, of course, they run from one post to the next, and in the middle we have all these blackberries. These blackberries, they can rest their long canes on these ropes. They can specially rest the long canes loaded with the blackberries on these ropes. And this is the kind of setup that you can build at home very easily. Now, do all blackberries need a support system, need a trellis system like this? Not if you have the kind of blackberries that I have. Now, there are 3 different domestic varieties of blackberries. There are, of course, the wilder cousins that you get in the wild. Those blackberries, of course, they are unruly. They have a lot of thorns on them. These are thornless. Those are difficult to manage. That's why scientists have developed these domestic versions of blackberries. There are 3 varieties mainly. One is the erect blackberry, and as the name suggests, it stands erect. Those canes, they stand erect. They are shorter, and they don't need any support system because they can stand on their own. Then number 2 is semi-erect. The semi-erect ones may need some kind of a trellis system, may need some kind of a support structure. But the ones that I have, these ones are called the trailing blackberries. And as the name suggests, these trail. These tend to become very tall, very big. For example, if you look at this particular cane, this is a 2-year-old cane. The 2-year-old cane is called a floricane, and that's why it's bearing all the berries. This cane is almost about 12 feet. It's going all the way here and then bending all the way down. This trellis system is there to support the weight of this very long cane. So if you have trailing blackberry varieties like I have over here, then you definitely need a trellis system. So the one obvious reason to have a trellis system for the trailing blackberries is that these blackberries, once they are loaded, or even when they are not loaded, these long canes, they need a support structure. They need something to lean on. They need something to carry their weight, especially when they have all these blackberries on them which weigh them down. Otherwise, what can happen is the blackberry canes, they can trail on the ground, and they will trail on the ground with these blackberries, and of course these blackberries, they will catch all the infection, they will catch all the funguses on the ground, and there won't be any blackberries for you to pick. So these long canes get a very good support structure to lean on, especially when they have all these blackberries on them. Number 2 is that these blackberries, when they are tied up like that, up in the air, when they are leaning on these ropes that we have tied from one support structure to the other, they will get all the air and sunlight they can get. Now for the blackberries, especially in our part of the world, we are at 8,000 feet in the Himalayas, Over here, the blackberries, unfortunately for us, they mature, they come into harvest bang in the middle of the monsoons, just when the rains are at the worst. This is August, and this is when we harvest all our blackberries. This is when it rains. Last night it rained very heavily, as you can see. Some of the dew, some of the raindrops are still there on these leaves. So it's very difficult to manage the blackberries in this kind of a weather, because the rains, the monsoons, they bring with it a lot of infections, they bring with it a lot of diseases. To prevent that, we have to tie these up in a way, hang them up like this, and they get a good circulation of air. What they get also is good exposure to sunlight. So otherwise what can happen is these trailing blackberry canes, they can easily shadow the lower branches and the blackberries growing on these lower branches, and that can of course lead to a lot of diseases and funguses. And to avoid that, they need to be tied up, they need to be on these support structures on the trellis system for a good circulation of air and good exposure to sunlight. So after you have built a trellis system for the blackberries, these ropes and the posts, these long canes need to be tied onto these ropes. They need to be tied on these ropes so that they remain in place, they remain erect. And when they are erect like this, that is when they will get a good circulation of air and good exposure to sunlight, and they will not shade any blackberry branches or blackberries themselves growing under them. So of course you can use any kind of a device to clip these long canes onto the ropes. What we use on our farm are these velcro tapes, and they seem very effective. We just need to tear a piece of them like this, cut it out, and then simply clip any trailing cane onto the ropes like this. We just clip it onto the ropes, and this will keep this cane from trailing. It will keep the cane from falling down. It will keep it erect. So this is what I'm going to do today, because my harvest, like I said, is bumper this year. It's a good harvest. All these canes are loaded with the blackberries, and they need to be tied up to the support structure. So over here, if I can tell you, there are two different kinds of blackberry canes side by side. One over here, this is a 1-year-old cane. This has grown this much. This has grown almost about what, maybe 10 to 11 feet. And this has grown almost about 10 to 11 feet just this season. Rather, this has grown this tall just in a matter of couple of months. This is the primo cane. Now the primo cane is a cane which is a 1-year-old cane. This cane is not going to fruit this year. This is going to fruit next year. But this cane over here next to the primo cane is called the floricane. Floricane is a 2-year-old cane. So the blackberries and the raspberries, they bear their berries on only 2-year-old canes. Now this is a 2-year-old cane, that's why it's bearing all the blackberries. This is a 1-year-old cane or this season's growth, so it won't bear me any blackberries this year. But what happens after 2 years? After 2 years, which is next year, this cane would die. It would become redundant. It would have done its job, which is producing the blackberries, and then I would come in and remove it right at the bottom. And this blackberry cane over here, which is 1-year-old cane, this is the one that would become the 2nd-year-old cane, and this will bear me all the blackberries. So this is what you also need to know when you are growing blackberries. You need to know how the canes behave, what kind of a life cycle they have. But today what I'm going to do is tie them all up so that these canes can get maximum amount of air circulation and whatever sunlight that we can get in this kind of an overcast weather that we have here during monsoons. So we take the velcro tape and we take about 3 to 4 inches of it. That's enough to clip a cane because the cane is not very thick. So 3 to 4 inches of it, cut it out, and this can be used to clip any blackberry cane we have. So what I'm going to do first is, to save time, is to take all these cuttings first from this tape and then start tying the canes with them. Now I've got all these Velcro tape cuttings and I'm going to look for some canes which are trailing on the ground and tie them up to these ropes that we have in the trellis system. And I see one right over here. This is a young 1-year-old cane which is this season's growth, and I'm going to take it all the way up because it was crowding down below, it was shading the berries below. I'm going to make it stand erect like this on its own, like so, tie it over here so that it becomes erect. There you go. This is the way I'm going to go along, look for any canes which are drooping down, which are trailing on the ground, make them stand like this, attach them to these ropes that we have so that all these canes, all our berries get good sunlight and good circulation of air. This particular cane, now loaded with the berries, is crowding upon shading the lower branches, the lower canes and the berries. This needs to go where it belongs, which is this side over here. This particular cane has come all the way from here. This is almost about what, maybe 8 to 10 feet. I need to take it back like this and bring it up carefully because it's loaded with the berries, and without snapping it, I need to make it erect like this. There you go, like that. So now look at this. I was thinking this is 8 feet, this is almost about 10 to 12 feet easily. And this is the way I'm going to keep it. This was originally like this. This is the way I found it. I found it drooping over here on top of the other blackberries. And this was obviously creating a lot of shade to the blackberries growing below. And it was itself not getting enough sunlight and air circulation. So by taking it all the way up, taking it like this and tying it over here, I would have exposed it to all the sunlight, all the air, and also give sunlight and air to the canes which this very big cane loaded with blackberries was crowding, was shading. For this, I think I'll need to keep a longer tape because this is carrying a lot of weight of the blackberries, as you can see, and this needs to be like this for at least until the duration that we have the blackberries on them. So I'm going to get the tape and tie it to the rope. I'll take this tape and I'll see whether this works, with this holds this cane in place over here. There you go. There you go. It's sliding down, but still better than it drooping over the other canes. This will remain in place over here and it's perfectly fine now. Now you see what we are up to over here. We need all these canes to go up and not crowd any other cane. This one over here, not bearing any berries, of course, is a primo cane. It's a 1-year-old cane. It's a new cane. I'm going to tie it over here like so, because remember, it's only grown this much in the last couple of months. This is going to grow right up till September, and this is going to grow really very tall and sturdy like this cane behind me. So this needs to be put in place right on time, and this is now tied up to this rope. I'll put it a little further up over here, and we are done. Now we are going to look at the lower branches over here. This branch is okay so far. We have one branch over here. This is also crowding all the canes below it, and this will also need to be tied to one rope or the other. Maybe this rope over here, I can tie it over here, and that will open up a lot of space in the center. There you go. And this one is okay. This is okay. Then we have this cane trailing on the ground over here, which I am going to now pull up and tie to maybe this rope over here. Tie it over here. So the idea, of course, is to open up the space. The idea is to not have them crowd on each other. Idea is to get good circulation of air, expose all of them to the sunlight and have a good circulation of air going over here. So now much better than what I found it. All of these canes, this cane over here was crowding down, this cane was crowding down, all these canes were trailing on the ground because these are trailing blackberries, so we need to keep them erect. To keep them erect, you need support systems like this, you need trellis systems like this, so that you can hang these canes, these very long canes, lean them on them, clip them onto them, so that you open up spaces, you give them good circulation of air, because that is the only way you can avoid diseases. And of course, this is one of the best ways to ensure good blackberries from your blackberry canes.